Digital currencies should be a nonpartisan issue by now, you would think, but they are not. Joining us, Circle co-founder and CEO Jeremy Allaire is here, and you can save me from myself, or at least my voice right now. What do you think is going on here, and this sort of very interesting political bifurcation that's taking place in the crypto community?
Well, it's fascinating to watch. As you know, I've been going to Capitol Hill for 11 years almost. First Senate hearing on crypto in 2013, and have spent an enormous amount of time across Republican administrations, Democratic administrations, every which way. What's interesting is that if you look at what happened over the past year, you actually saw a lot of bipartisan work getting done. You saw major bills in stablecoin, major bills in market structure advancing. And so it looked like this was a purple issue. And I actually believe, I think crypto is purple. I think now we're in politics, though. We're trying to get people elected. And so people are figuring out, okay, this is an industry here to stay. There's a lot of investment from that industry in the campaigns themselves. And so people are staking out these new positions. But it actually reflects, in many ways, if you look 2 years ago, it would be very hard to believe that crypto is going to be a presidential political issue. It would be very hard to believe that there'd be major legislation. The industry would be where it is. 2 years ago, it was a very different world.
So what do you make of the fact that obviously former President Trump has taken this on as his issue, has tried to say he's crypto friendly, and then we keep hearing, but maybe you can provide some more insight, at least behind the scenes, because we haven't seen it publicly yet, that Vice President Harris is trying to court the crypto community as well.
So I think that's absolutely accurate. And, as has been reported, I participated in a White House, and there were Harris folks involved as well, discussion last week. And what I can say is there is a concerted effort, both from the administration and the Harris campaign, to really get to know the issues, the players, the industry, the policy issues, et cetera. I think what the industry is looking for very, very clearly is clear statements potentially from the existing White House and clear statements from Harris as part of her economic policy agenda. How is this going to
Fair to say, though, that this administration, the current administration, has not been friendly to crypto, or at least has cast a skeptical eye on it.
Yeah, and I think they've missed the boat on that. I think they've caused American jobs to go overseas. They've made the cost of building in this space extremely prohibitive. They've created a situation where policy is being adjudicated by the courts and not by Congress. And that is not how a new technology industry should be developed. And so they've really missed the beat on that. But you did see later in this administration this pivot towards, okay, we're going to actually try and pass comprehensive legislation on a bipartisan basis. And so there's some move towards that, but is it too little too late?
And do you see a distinction between, Gary Gensler was appointed by this administration. Where do you see him playing in this situation?
Look, I think we're 90 days out from obviously from the presidential electoral outcome. And there's a lot of discussion about Harris wanting to, build out her own cabinet, so to speak, if she were to win. Obviously, we know what President Trump would do. But I think, who are going to be...
Do you know what President Trump would do? That was the other question I was going to ask you, which is he's made a whole bunch of statements about Bitcoin. He went to the Bitcoin conference. But I don't know how deep he would even say he is, just in fairness, on these issues.
It's hard to know that, obviously. But I think what does seem clear is that a lot of the people around him and his advisors and others have a somewhat sophisticated view on the topic. And so, it's a kind of, is it a delegation of not authority per se, but of kind of really driving the policy agenda. But I do believe we've reached a really interesting point where there's been incredible technology maturity in this space. It's happening at a very, very accelerating pace. More and more major companies, traditional financial companies, payments companies, consumer companies, others getting into this. Europe is ahead of the U.S. on this. Comprehensive regulation, fully in force. Other markets very much moving in that. And so this is a huge opportunity for the United States, and it's a huge opportunity for the dollar and digital dollars. And so whatever the outcome, this is advancing.
Mm-hmm. There was some expectation or hope maybe that Donald Trump at the Bitcoin conference would say that he would want Bitcoin to be a reserve currency of some sort for the United States. Is that still alive? Is that the hope for a Trump administration still, in your view?
You know, I don't. I mean, he made a speech and he said, "Well, we won't sell our Bitcoin," basically.
Right.
I think there's a whole discussion. I don't think it's a long discussion on, like, is it a good idea for the Federal Reserve to, hold, something like Bitcoin on its balance sheet. That's sort of a more of a central bank and monetary policy question.
That would have an impact on you, I would imagine. No.
I mean, I think generally advancing policies that allow private sector innovation to grow, advancing policies that effectively make digital currency dollars that are built on these technologies flourish around the world would absolutely benefit us. And so we've been obviously advocating for those kinds of rules for a very long time. We think this is a key moment for dollar competitiveness, competing with China, competing in this geo-fractured world, and doing it responsibly.